Well, I went to film school, and at the film school, we're teaching people who were very influential on me. Ed Pincus and Richard Leacock are the primary two. And so, in a way, they were helping me figure out what kind of filmmaking I wanted to do for myself. And then after I graduated, I worked for D.A. Pennebaker and John Marshall on two different projects. And both of them, I think, also exerted a kind of influence on my personal direction and enabled me to make a living. I felt incredibly fortunate to be a part of a multi-camera team that was out filming in the world in different ways. And so that cemented my love of this form of filmmaking, not working from a script, you know, not having a notion as to what you were going to do until you actually arrived on location, you started shooting, because both of those guys in very different ways were practitioners of that approach. I myself wanted to take cinema verite and do something different with it. I wasn't quite sure what. It took me a while to work out this historical, this very writerly way of doing the narration, where, you know, it just took me forever to write the narration and record it and lay it in and so forth in a way that seemed to kind of give my documentary films almost fictional quality in the way that they flowed. In this town alone, we have Fred Wiseman representing pure cinema verite, unadorned with any narration, any kind of interference from the filmmaker. And then we have Errol Morris, which is at the other extreme, where he does highly stylized, very carefully, I mean, his sets look like this. You know, he has all of this equipment around, he has his camera, and he does multiple takes of things, and he builds these elaborate sets for his subjects. And basically, he's just interviewing regular folks, but he creates a kind of world of fiction gloss around reality. For me, the miracle of the last 15 years has been that documentary has exploded. And it's suddenly available everywhere. It plays in theaters. There was a point 2 years ago, I remember being struck by this, where in Boston, there were 9 documentary features playing in various theaters around town. 9 at one time. I think that must have been a high point, a record. And I thought I would never live to see this day. When I started making documentary films, it was an obscure thing to want to do. Even as a filmmaker, it was an obscure thing to want to do. And it has now become this groundswell of activity, and the public is very interested, and that has its little tributaries that go out into television. I think we have reality TV, which of course didn't exist, which is a kind of perverted form of documentary, but it's all reality-based, and I never would have been able to predict that this would sweep the country the way that it has, and the world.